Hey everybody, it's Jason BLaha here, and something I wanted to talk to you guys about very briefly today because it's something I think a lot of people that don't realize, and they don't realize how much support there is for this concept. Sometimes in the media, by medical researchers, by medical doctors, by registered dietitians, and that's the subject of flexitarianism. And I think it throws people off. A lot of you may not have heard of this topic or this term before. And it's just like when I discuss these things, I've discussed for you guys various health issues, social issues, environmental issues, everything else related to meat consumption and animal product consumption. And a lot of people say things, well, I'd love to go vegetarian or I'd love to go vegan, but I can't give up meat. And what a lot of people don't realize is that you don't have to draw a hard line in the sand. Taking a stance of veganism, I'll admit, is a very strong stance, and that might be more extreme than some people want to be, but that's also like saying I want to have a healthy fitness lifestyle, but I don't want to give up ice cream or pizza once a week. Or I want to have my little bit of ice cream before bed 3 times a week when doing my cutting diet. Well, that's why people have things called flexible dieting. And it's interesting that the terms are very similar because that is essentially what flexitarianism is. It's people who say, well, I understand that there are health implications and ethical implications, environmental implications, world hunger implications to eating meat, but I don't want to give it up, so I'll just cut back the amount I eat. Or I'll go vegetarian 1 day a week, or 3 days a week, or 5 days a week. I'll just generally avoid meat through the week and eat it on the weekends. And things like the Meatless Monday is the most loosest stance of that, and that's where people basically go vegetarian or vegan just on Mondays. It's got a lot of support from cancer research, like even WebMD has run articles on it. It's made it in the news. Some public schools have gone that way. A lot of registered dietitians and various disease researchers support this because they say that most people in the Western world eat way more animal products than they need, that it contributes to cardiovascular disease, various types of cancers, diabetes. That is mainstream. That's not fringe. The whole pushing things like the ketogenic diets or high meat diets is fringe. That's not accepted by the mainstream science or dietitians, but reducing the intake of those from what most people eat is. And for a lot of people now in the fitness, training world, bodybuilding world, they go to the other extreme again. They eat even more animal products than the mainstream America. And so that might seem to them like those topics are more mainstream, but they are fringe. And so you'll actually find that there's things like flexitarianism has a lot of support in the scientific community and the registered dietitian community. And it's just something I would ask a lot of you to consider of if you say, well, I agree, you've got some interesting points. There is a lot of data showing these things. I know that I don't necessarily feel good about the amount of meat I eat, but I can't give it up. We'll give flexitarianism a try to where you have just a few days a week where you continue on your omnivorous diet, and you have other days of the week to where you follow a vegetarian or vegan diet. And you can be flexible with it and just work it in and assess it on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis of how much you're comfortable eating. And I would argue with even the other vegans I know, this is something I discussed at a big vegan meeting I was at this week with them, is that we don't have to take that hard line in the sand. Our ethical goals and the goals a lot of us have would still be promoted if most people just cut their meat intake back. If the entire Western world cut their meat consumption 50%, they would still get the joy they get out of eating the meat, but at least our concerns would be reduced 50%. There'd be 50% less animal suffering. The environmental impact would be absurd because eating meat consumption contributes more to total environmental pollution than actual transport does around the world when you look at the net sum of it. In fact, even in the United States, I mean, that's a big deal. The meat that we eat produces just as much pollution as driving the cars, buses, trains, planes does on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So if you can just convince people to cut these things back, all these benefits will be seen to a large extent. They would be very measurable. And overall, we know that people's health would improve. As a demographic, everyone in the U.S., if the meat consumption got 50%, the diseases and demographic rate would change dramatically. And the overwhelming majority of cancer research, diabetes research, heart foundation researchers, and dietitians actually agree with that point. That's pretty well agreed upon. It would change those things dramatically. So guys, just give something like Flexitarian a try if you're torn and you're on that fence and you say, I'm not ready to take some stance that extreme yet, but I'd like to cut back, then simply cut back. Alright guys, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.